everyone, welcome back to my channel for another video. Today we're going to be having fun with a new stamp from Spellbinders. This is it's actually a cling rubber stamp. It's called Bouquet for You, and it's part of a new collection that Spellbinders is carrying. And so today I'm going to be doing something I don't do a lot, and that is watercoloring. I'm going to use my Distress inks. And I'm using my Waffle Flower Media Mat. And I love this mat because, as you can see, you can just put your little mini ink cube down in the little wells, and it fits exactly into that well. And then you can just bring a wet brush into the well and start watercoloring. Now, this stamp, it's a red rubber stamp, like I said, so it's very detailed. So there's really not a whole lot you need to do, theoretically. I'm not going to put much color on his body. I'm just kind of using a combination of two gray inks. And I'm going to try to do a little bit of shading under his arm. But really, I'm not doing a whole lot with his body. And I'm not going to explain everything about what I'm coloring. I'm just going to probably chat a little bit in order to distract you from my coloring. So my whole intention with watercoloring this adorable mouse was to just have very loose watercoloring, just very simple watercoloring, because again, the detail's already here. You could easily use one gray ink for the body, one color for the flowers, and one color for the leaves. And this image would still be adorably cute. I was trying to do just a little bit of shading, but really my intention was to do a quick job of this. Now, I do love watercoloring when it's a simple image like this, but I will tell you that when I was younger, I was an oil painter. I took AP art in high school, and before you get overly impressed with me, AP art was an elective. It wasn't something that you had to qualify for or be talented for. It was just something that I had as my elective. I actually took art all 3 years of high school. My high school only went from sophomore to senior year. So I loved art. I've always loved art. But so in high school, I learned to oil paint. And in fact, you might see some of my paintings in museums. Not my paintings per se, but the actual paintings that I copied while I was in AP art. So what I did was I would sit in AP art and I would look through the magazines and find a picture of a famous painting, and then I would replicate it. So that is how my left brain works. I'm very analytical and I'm very left brain. So, if you put a blank canvas in front of me, I probably couldn't paint anything. But if you put a picture next to me, I could replicate it. So my oil paintings were pretty good. In fact, apparently while I was away at camp one summer, my dad sold them all in a garage sale. So he never told me how much he sold them for. He may have even given them away. He may have been trying to make me feel good that he sold them. I don't know. So either my oil paintings are either in somebody's house to this day, maybe even a famous person's house. I don't know. Or they're just at the bottom of, a garbage dump, incinerated. I'm going to go with the latter. Not the latter, the former. I'm just going to tell myself that they eventually were purchased by a very famous person, and they're being enjoyed to this day. So anyway, I'm telling you this story because I'm trying to distract you from this coloring. So now I'm coming in with another green color because at this point I have forgotten who I am and I'm getting obsessed with the shadows. I'm doing exactly what I said I wasn't going to do, which is to worry about things like shadows. But I will say that when I brought in this darker color of green, it really added a lot of dimension to the leaves. I don't know if you noticed the kind of transformation in the leaves that happened when I added that color. So then I got a little cocky and I started bringing in this darker shade of pink. Is actually kind of a purple color. And so now I am thinking I'm going to add more shadows to these flowers. And at this point, it was just getting overworked. I had done way more to this image than I had ever planned. And it was getting to the point where I was even losing kind of the definition that the black stamping had given. So, yeah. So at this point I'm thinking, I wish I could restamp this image when I'm done because, again, it's lost some of the definition. Well, here's where the big mistake happened because I remembered that I had left the stamp in my MISTI. So I started getting this idea, I'm sure you know where this is going, that I could restamp. This is the part of the story where it's like a horror film, where the girl hears a noise, she goes over to the closet to open the closet, and you're yelling at the TV, "Don't open the closet. I can hear you. You're telling me, don't try to restamp this image, Allison. You did all that work, all those shadows. Don't do it." And you might see that my paper's uneven at the bottom of the MISTI. And I couldn't remember exactly how I had it in there the first time. And I even tried to stamp it on a piece of acetate over the image so I could figure out which way I had it in there. So, yeah, here we go. Don't do it. And guess what? Yep, it was not in there right. You can kind of see down at the foot that's up in the air and some of the upper flowers. So, yeah, that was a huge bummer. So here we are the next morning. And if you've learned anything about me, I'm not going to throw it away. I'm so stubborn. So I cut the little mouse out. I was thinking of another idea, so I cut him in a circle. But now I'm going to take that panel and I'm going to put it through this new embossing folder from Spellbinders, the Floral and Vine. And I'm going to use the back of that image and emboss it. So I'm going to do one of my many techniques that I use with 3D embossing folders. I'm going to ink up the raised part with a Distress Oxide pad. And I'm going to mist both my paper and the embossing folder and run it through my Platinum 6. And here's what I get. Now, I hadn't inked up the embossing folder evenly, like I didn't get enough at the top. So here I come in with more ink. And I know what you're saying. You're saying, Allison, did you not learn your lesson? Why are you taking chances again? But it was fine. It was all lined up. It did get a little heavy-handed in certain places, but that's okay. So now that green ink is now debossed. It's in the valleys of the paper. So now I'm going to take a brayer and this yellow ink, and I'm going to ink up the panel again. So now you can still see the definition of the flowers because those are debossed into the paper. And here I'm coming up with I think, squeezed lemonade just to brighten up that yellow a little bit. I hadn't wanted it to be so honey colored. All right, well, there's the mouse that I had cut out. I had initially cut him in a circle. Then I decided I'm going to fussy cut him. And So I fussy cut him as much as I could, but there's still parts in between some of the leaves that we're going to take care of. And we're going to use this little guy. I don't know what this is called. I'm going to try and find it so I can link it. It'll probably be linked in the supply list on my blog. Whoa, that's really close. So I zoomed in and wow. I don't think I've ever seen my fingers this close before. I'm very distracted right now. So anyway, I'm gonna try to talk, but I'm kind of freaked out. So obviously I'm cutting the white part out in between the leaves. And this tool that I'm using, this blade, I use it a lot for when I'm fussy cutting and I want to cut out an interior portion of something. It's really easy. You just need, don't do it on a glass mat. I'm using my Altenew mat for this. So obviously I would not do this on a glass mat, but it's not hard. And so then I decided I'm going to cut some of these leaves apart. Just to separate them a little bit. Because I want him to be, holding a bouquet of flowers. So here I have gotten some flowers and I can't remember the name of this. This is a new floral set from the Country Road collection, I think. My mind is a blank, but it was this new floral die. I will add the name to the top of the screen after I do this voiceover. So when you see the name, just know that I added that later. And that's why I just can't recall it at the moment. But these are little flowers. You can find little tiny flowers in so many Spellbinders sets, but I happen to really love this new die set. All right, so whenever I fussy cut an image, I usually come in afterwards with a black marker and I just go around the edges. It's just to get rid of the white lines on the outside when you fussy cut, and it just gives it more definition and it makes it look more finished. So that's what I'm doing here. And so now I'm just arranging my little mouse in the window. And my plan is I'm going to glue him to the back of this panel first. And then I'll glue the whole thing down to my card base. And I'm trying very hard to get his bottom hand to show. But I had cut it like right underneath that lower hand. So you don't see much of his lower hand in the end. But I'm not going to glue all the leaves down. I'm going to just glue kind of the middle of him down because I want those leaves or stems to create dimension. And so here I am gluing down the flowers. Now some of the flowers I will glue down to the paper, but the majority of them I'm going to just glue to the top of one of these stems. And I'm going to leave them loose. And I'm not even going to put foam tape behind them. I could put a foam dot behind it, but I really kind of want them to be popped up in the air. And, it will still go in an envelope fine. It won't get messed up if it's not adhered to a foam dot. So I'm just arranging it, and then it was like right around this point that I decided I needed another yellow flower. I'm trying very hard to have an odd number of flowers because you should always use odd numbers in your design, whether that's floral elements or sequins. But I apparently was not filming when I created another yellow flower, and then I finished the card, and I thought I was filming, but I was not. So you're about to see the finished card in a second, where I added a sentiment. And yeah, I'm sorry that I didn't film it. But this is how I finished it. I used this friend die, which this is from one of Yana's sets. I think it's the anemone blooms. It's actually a hot foil set, but it has a die as well. So that's where the friend comes from. And this is not what I intended to do, obviously, but I think it turned out pretty cute. And now here is what I did after. This is what the mouse should have looked like. I did restamp it a second time on this one as well, but this time I planned ahead. So I left the stamp in my MISTI again, but this time I had a very square piece of paper, and I knew exactly how to put it back into my MISTI, and I think it turned out so cute. And then here is a card that I just used that new Floral and Vine embossing folder just by itself. This time I colored the embossed side. And I think this embossing folder, maybe it's the colors I used. It's very shabby chic looking to me, even the one that I made with the mouse. But it may just be the colors that I used. And speaking of colors, I will list all of the colors that I used today on my blog. There will be a supply list below. Probably the one below will probably just have all the new products. And my blog will have all the products, including a couple other cards that I made with some other new products from Spellbinders. They always release their new products on the 10th. So this was one of them, or the mouse and the embossing folder. And there were a few others that I played with as well. So you can check those out in my blog. I thank you for joining me today. And I thank you for, if you're still watching, this is kind of a wacky video today. So thanks for bearing with me, and I appreciate you visiting, and I will see you next time. Bye.